Well, my wife, Kim, is going away for a weekend vacation with some of her friends. So I'm gonna be here with the kids alone. Three kids. You got a 4-year-old. You got, as I found out recently, not a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then a 14-year-old. I haven't verified that recently, but I believe that's still his age. Uh, Now, I've done this many times. Not a big deal. I don't know how you are about this, Matt, since you have 5 kids. But every
At
now,
least.
kid stuff comes up, and I'm just like, I don't know. I've seen it all, right? Like, not a big deal. So it's fine to be, as they say, single parenting. It'll be maybe even slightly enjoyable. But I wanted to get, as always, as frequently at the beginning of the shows, I like to get some tips from you two. What are some tips you have for one parent in the household when there are usually two? Once there were two, and now there are one. And like, how are you gonna, what do you do that's different? What are you
How,
going for?
well,
Maybe I should
how long are
even.
we talking? How long are we talking? A
We're,
week?
it's gonna be 2 weekdays and 2 weekend days. Well, you might call it the weekend. Uh, so we got
Okay,
about
you're asking
four
how do
days.
I take care of my kids for a weekend?
No. I thought I wanted to be very clear. I'm not asking how to do it or how to cope. It's all fine. I'm just
You-
looking for some life hacks, some
okay,
like
life hacks.
normal, some stuff that maybe I'm not accounting for, right?
Um,
Because you got the classics. You got the number one classic: order the food. Don't have to
yep.
make the food, right? I
Yep.
think that's
Well,
fine. Now,
I think you should go with like, I think you should go on the food. You could probably, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but you could probably order food one night and then like make dinner together the other night, and just something that like
whoa,
maybe isn't you or your wife's like favorite thing, but the kids are into it. So
right,
you'd be like,
right.
hey, we're gonna have spaghetti, or something like that. It's pretty easy, and it's something the kids like, and it's something that you can like take or leave.
Uh
Maybe your
huh.
spaghetti's
Yeah,
off,
make it
but
fancy. I'll buy the noodles that you normally buy, and be like, look, this is a new noodle type. You've never had this
New
before.
noodle.
It's
oh yeah, change up the noodles.
yeah. I
Of,
mean,
of, of it,
it's fine.
it'll be like, I bought the Barillo noodles. This is not just the HEB Hill Country Fair noodles. We're
But I think
going
KJ, we
crazy
really
here.
need to like almost like a software. We need to like deconstruct your problem a little bit, because I think
Yeah,
one, it's like
what's the
basically
problem?
not a
Hmm.
problem to say, but I think there's some strategic ages here. Like I know I also have a 14-year-old son, so it's like, well, one, that person you don't have to worry about. You won't even see them. They will be in
Yeah.
their room. You like they
Uh-huh.
completely self-sufficient. They probably don't even want to see you that much, right? So that when you're like almost
Oh,
100% outsourced, right? So then you're just down with like, can you get the older daughter to play with the younger daughter? And then at
Oh,
that point, this is more like the AI thing. It's all self-sufficient. The system runs itself, right?
uh-huh.
That's the way I think of it. Because actually, my wife is going out of town, but I just have one son, 14-year-old. And I told him, I was like, well, this is kind of like a dry run for like, having college roommates. It's just like, we'll just hang out, you'll do your
yep.
thing, I'll do my thing, I'll get you some food. And then that's it. It's just like, it's very simple when the
See,
kids get
I've
older.
got the opposite. I've got the opposite. My wife and I are having an anniversary away from the kids, so we're going out for the weekend and leaving them to fend for themselves.
Oh, you're at the level where they don't have to do anything now. They're just by themselves.
Yeah,
No, they can do
they're
whatever they
fine.
want, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, remember to heat up the frozen pizza. Life
Remember to
lesson.
turn off the
What
oven.
age, Matt? That actually was like, what age did you do that at? Like, what's the the age where you
Well,
can like?
my oldest graduated from college, so
Uh-huh.
you know, uh,
But
it's not
is the
that.
oldest going
It's
to be
not
there?
that.
I think the oldest was
Yeah,
maybe at college.
no, he's it's downtown. He's coming home
Okay, so
from
he's got a full fledged. I mean, you have a full fledged adult. Okay, so
yeah.
that's different. Okay,
Well, none of them can drive, but that's fine.
but that's choice, right? They could. I mean, they're of age. At least one
Yeah.
is of age, right?
2 are of age. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's different. If you've chosen not to drive at this point, that is on you. Like, I don't think you have to, like,
It's
you don't have
different
to own
here.
that.
Yeah, it's different. But yeah, I think overnight by themselves, probably they would have need to have been like, I don't know, 16, 17 is where I'm
Yeah, that makes
leaning.
sense.
And the youngest would have had to have been fairly self-sufficient. They all are now. Like they're
Mhm.
all fine with it. We're only going away for overnight, and there will be a 21-year-old in the house. So
Yes,
Oh
same.
yeah.
Well,
It's
everyone
not-
else, write in and judge Matt for leaving a 16-year-old alone. That's what we prefer. Find us in Slack and criticize Matt for doing that. But I like what you said the bar at, Matt. I'm like, yeah, 16, they can drive. Give them some means of funding. Feels like that's about right. Feels like they could get along by themselves.
I mean, you know, they all started ordering food for themselves at about 15, right? You know, uh, which and to be fair, like one of my nephews ordered food for himself at 12 because he didn't like what they were having for dinner. So
Oh, even better. Even better.
That's pretty.
What?
Well, you know, maybe you know. Okay, so I think maybe there was like, let's say 0.7 good tips in there in our conversation, and
I'm always good for 0.7 good tips.
I think maybe I was approaching this wrong, and instead I need to I focused on the wrong thing, and instead what I need to focus on is, like, you know how it is when you're, whether it's roommates or your partner, your spouse, loved ones, maybe even relatives. Whenever you're living with another adult, you make certain contractual agreements about how things will run.
Sure.
And so maybe when that other adult is gone, that's my chance to just go wild and like put the knives sharp part up in the dishwasher.
Whoa.
And then start
That-
putting
yeah.
the IKEA plastic containers bottom of the dishwasher. Really going to give them a thorough wash instead of on the top. So maybe that's something I need to think of more, is like, what are things I could do that would be crazy? I can't even think about it. Like, because I was just, here I'm cold and I'm sitting here in my bathrobe, and I was thinking like I could wear my bathrobe to bed, but I can already do that. So that's not a big thing. And we don't have a shower. We don't have a shower curtain, so I can't, leave the shower curtain open. I'm not sure.
I like it. I like where your head is at, though. This vacation is a chance for you to reclaim mundane household standards and re-implement them. It is. Maybe that's the way I think of it. It's almost like you are the standards body. Can you re-implement some standards over this long weekend? And then can you make them stick? You're like, hey, we're a Java shop now. This is the only way we do it. Sorry you were out of town. Don't bring any of that C++ in here. What's the equivalent?
I think maybe what I'll do, I've got that 14-year-old able-bodied child. Maybe we'll say goodbye to Kim. We'll close the door. We'll walk upstairs, have a little sigh, and I'll be like, "All right, Cormac, we're moving the couch. Never liked it there. We're gonna move it over a little bit."
That is a bold, a very bold move to make. But if you feel like you have the support, maybe you should do it.
Now we're gonna move it back before she comes. I'm just saying, well, she's gone.
The tiniest of rebellions. While you were gone, we changed things, and you'll never know what it was.
Yep. Yeah, maybe we'll do that, or maybe I'll just like rearrange one section of a kitchen drawer, and just who knows how this happened. I'm not sure. Now the spatulas are on the left. What a mystery.
Love it.
Well, speaking of things that I think were or were not a mystery. Now, it seems like one of the larger news items in the world that we pay attention to here. There was a big boxing match on Netflix. And did either of you watch this event?
Oh, I watched it, definitely.
Okay, so did you? It seems like the experience was there were some hiccups. The Chaos Monkey was put into production, and things maybe didn't work out perfectly. How about for you, though? You got Google Fiber going to your house?
Not yet. Unfortunately, I'm on Time Warner, but I did have it. So the Netflix fight, happened over Friday. I guess it was Mike Tyson versus Logan Paul. And reported 60 million people tried to stream it simultaneously. And it generally, like, the streams did sort of cut in and out. Like, I finally when the fight actually got going, it was pretty good. But I don't know how everyone, having been in obviously working on cloud for a long period of time, I think all of us have either been to a presentation given by Netflix, or Netflix has been cited as the example of greatness, right? So there was a little bit of like, finally, these people have been taken off their high horse just a little bit, right? It's after all of the talk about the greatness and all of the technology, I would be lying if I didn't think to myself as I was watching it, I smiled a little bit like, finally, these people can just quiet down a little bit. Like, it isn't always so quote unquote perfect. And so I admit that's a feeling that is probably wrong. And I shouldn't really admit that out loud, but it's just like, sometimes it's just like, all the projects, all the open source. So I felt good about even the great
your
ones.
pettiness.
Yeah, the pettiness. Even the great ones have some off days. So that was my
Well,
thought.
is it just because like they haven't done live events? I mean, because I remember, I know you follow like Amazon Football and YouTube Sports, and like I know they both had hiccups when they first got started. Things weren't that great, but eventually they hit their stride, and now, as far as I've heard from you at least, those things are rock solid, right?
Yeah, I think the other streams that I watch day to day are rock solid. But
I mean,
the things that
you
came
know what I'm
out-
saying? Like the difference between a streaming movie and a sporting event is like the sporting event.
Yeah, a
There's no
different thing.
buffering allowed, right?
100%. I get it. But like, this is the whole thing. It's like, hey, everybody knows this. And Netflix is not, they have not been bashful about how often they tell us how smart they are and how they've done everything and they figured it all this out and we should all be doing it wrong. I just feel like, so it's just one of those things. And I do think some people came out and said, well, this could have been maybe the largest stream of all time or one of them. And everyone is just like, hey, nobody, even the largest stream, which may be like a football game in the US, hasn't approached 60 million people. But an astute listener, whose name I forget, pointed out there was an article that says Disney in India, where cricket is huge, right? They set a record of 59 million concurrent viewers. And it says that these cricket matches, just by the definition, there's a very large population in India. So therefore, lots more people can watch it. And as far as I know, that went off fine. And so I think it's kind of one of these things like Disney, which I think a long time ago acquired BAMTech for streaming. In this one instance, if you want to think Disney versus Netflix, Disney, who doesn't necessarily talk about their technology as much, it seems like they have the better live streaming platform, at least at the moment, at least if we put them head to head, which I think is also kind of interesting for Netflix as well. So I don't know. I think there's just like lots of interesting things to be said there.
And I guess it's also good kudos to Disney because as I understand it, a cricket match lasts 3 days. So that's like a 3-day stream that they have.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe it was.
I have learned something. I have learned something in my time here. There's the most popular form of cricket that is like what they show on TV and stuff is I think
the 20s, right?
Test or it has
a test match. It's like 20.
It's only like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it's more like a football game, American football game, where you can show something, it's over quick, everyone gets their big rush, and on to the next one. So that was specifically done because nobody wants to watch a 2 or 3 day sporting event, with alcoholic refreshment breaks.
Alcoholic refreshment breaks.
Well, I mean, everyone loves the 7th inning stretch, but we don't want it to last 7 hours. So.
That's true. That's true.
All
now, there was before we move to the next topic, I've listened and read a fair amount, more commentary than I ever have about a sports event about this, and it's dawning on me now that no one actually talked about the event, like what happened. Like you got that Mike Tyson, and then the other guy, and like so what happened?
Well, there's not much to say. Mike Tyson, who's I think 58 years old, was very essentially a shell of his former self, and I think he had a leg injury. So essentially it was like some very bad boxing where Mike Tyson lost on a decision. And it was kind of like, for those of us that watch Mike Tyson in its heyday, it was sort of like, well, this isn't really the same. So it's one of those things where
20-year-old beat up a 50-year-old.
Really, there's the actual event itself. I guess you say it's well marketed, but there was nothing interesting or even notable about the fight. In fact, it's like one of these things you kind of feel bad watching it. You're like, should I be watching this? And I guess you kind of did.
We need to get like more teenagers going on to the gerontology circuit, right?
Yeah. But the part I was interested in, I think this other part, I guess I'm going to put this in my pettiness corner. It's like the other part of the Netflix thing we always hear about, right? Is like the keeper test. And like, I went out to double check this. One of their values is candor, right? We've talked about this many times. Like the keeper test, a quick review is like at every minute as a manager at Netflix, you should be thinking to yourself, is this the best person in the world that can be doing this? And if not, you get rid of them, right? And they make it very clear that they're a team, not a family, right? And they make it very clear that they value candor in their culture, right? That they should both give it and receive it. So what did the Netflix CTO do on Twitter? He comes out and said, this unprecedented scale created many technical challenges which the launch team tackled brilliantly by prioritizing stability of the streams for the majority of viewers. And then it goes on to say, we don't want to dismiss the poor experience of some members and know we have room to improve, but still consider this event a huge success. It's like, what?
What else? would
What?
you
How
say?
could this be a huge success? Like, this seems as far from a huge, this seems like Netflix's biggest technical problem in years.
Meh.
So I don't know. I just come back to myself. Are we applying the keeper test at the moment to the CTO? And if we are we applying the candor value to the CTO? Does it just not seem candid, right? You could just say, I think something along the lines of like, the stream wasn't great tonight. The stream will be great for for football on Christmas, you know, and go further and be like, and anyone that wants to watch the fight for free, here's the link. You could do something like that, but like, I don't know. So I always these corporate values. I always like to like when they're actually tested in public, like, do they actually hold up? And I think in this case they did.
I mean,
am I
at
being
least-
too harsh? Go ahead,
yeah,
Matt.
he acknowledged it. I mean, it would have been, but you know, that's in some aspects that's a win for transparency, right? The fact that they even acknowledged that there was a problem. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like acknowledging the sun come up. Like, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, did it happen?
Did everybody have issues? Was
Well,
it
I mean,
the
I can't
source
speak
of the
60
feed, or
million
was it-
people, but several millions of people had issues.
Okay,
Right?
I don't know.
I mean, it was a
Yeah.
huge news event. I mean, it's been covered at length, as Gote mentioned, on numerous podcasts. And
I
then at
guess
the
I
end,
just
though,
didn't
but at
care.
the end, this is my point. It's like, even if you know if Cote knows about a sporting event, it's crossed over. Like, it's crossed
Oh, okay.
over
Yes.
into the mainstream. And so, but my whole point is just like, but at the end, this is what he wrote, but we still consider this a huge success. It's like, I don't
It
know.
is
This
a
is
huge
just back to like,
success.
is this candid?
Yeah,
Like in the meeting, in the blameless post-mortem, is everyone walking around? Listen, I know the logic to automatically spin up some new servers based on the elastic load balancers. I know it didn't work, but I consider this a huge success because now we know it didn't work. Like, if you said that in the Netflix meeting, wouldn't you like probably be experiencing the keeper test and being walked out? Like, I mean, could you say this internally?
I think what you're bringing up, Brandon, is a great opportunity we have at Software Defined Talk Publishing. Well-renowned publishing house that we have easily dominates, 0.01% of airport book sales. And I think what we need to do, I'd forgotten sort of that there was even sort of like, a Netflix credo. It's a big deal a while ago. Everyone knows the Amazon's got their credo, their big thing. But I think we're maybe, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years. We could just say 20 to make it impressive. We're 20 years into tech companies we're really into our own shit credos and like lists of things, right? And I think maybe if we can pick 5 of them, we can do a retrospective business book wise, right? Kind of like, my favorite, would you call it my favorite duo of books, In Search of Excellence, about 10 years later, followed up by In Search of Stupidity. And I think these are 2 great books I recommend reading together.
and the capper in the trilogy. What are we going to do with all these idiots?
Yeah, that's right. Book full of idiots. And I think we could have the Amazon one that we look over. Definitely the Netflix one. Since I forgot about that. I'm pretty sure there's some venture capitalists that we could find that probably have some kind of credo-ish thing. I don't know if credo's the right word.
and then you have a footnote of Google used to say "do no evil," right?
Right. Now that would be good.
Sure.
I think maybe we need to also profile. I don't know if they have it, but somewhere in the discussion we need to talk about Microsoft and IBM. Right? IBM used to have all the, they used to like sing a song about how great Watson Senior was or whatever. So they definitely had stuff, and I'm not sure they have it anymore. But I think that's a good opportunity because I was thinking this. I didn't, I'll take a look at this, but that phrase, a team, not a family, just like, wow. That, like, I don't even think, ironically, in like a sport event locker room, you would say that. They would be like, wow, fuck. Thanks, coach.
This place is
Really?
a little harsh.
We're really ready to go out there and win one for the corporation, right? Like
the stockholders.
Well, I like it all. I think we should
Wait,
definitely do
for
that.
the
But as we move on, because the one thing I know that will come out of this is that Netflix is going to start an internal project for better streaming. So I want to propose the name I want to propose for the open source project. I think they should call
Here
it
it comes.
Heavyweight. That's what I think they should call the project, Heavyweight. So that
Totally.
way, and then if they do,
Not,
because they're going to
not
be,
cruiserweight, featherweight.
I think it was clearly a heavyweight fight, and and the load was heavy and all that. So when they go and give the talk at the DevOps Day, or probably keynote one of these large tech conferences talking about how they did it, I think they should call it. I want it to be called Project Heavyweight. So that's my only ask to anyone at Netflix. And of course, like, I want to be clear, Netflix is a great service, longtime subscriber. Everyone in the family watches it, but I just, at the end of the day, we have to enjoy these small wins every once in a while. Be like, hey, even the greats have an off day. So, good luck, Netflix, and to all the people. And of course, I know all the people at Netflix are making incredible amounts of money. So if you feel bad, just go look at your bank accounts. That should cheer you up.
I think maybe one of the things that comes up a lot, we can put this in the book as well, Brandon, that the reaction you have these kind of things is like, I feel like you would be satisfied if instead the executive just came out and was like, kind of like my limited understanding a coach or even a player will do, like, after a game that they lose, the player's like, we should have done the thing with the ball more, and just like interview over, and it's like, yep, there you go. And in that sense, I think maybe the executives, when something like this happens, maybe you would be satisfied if they came out and they're just like, yeah, we really shit the bed on that one. Hopefully we won't next time. And then that's it.
I think so. I mean, I think you cleaned up a little bit. You workshop that statement a little bit, but like, I think it's pretty close, right? Like, no one's going to like freak out. Like, we all know what happened. It's over. It's not a big deal, but it's like, this insistence upon, even in the face of obviousness, right? And then again, like, as you already alluded to, it just like, it makes me feel even worse when I go to the website and I see candor. So it's like, come on, guys, pick one. Don't put candor on the website and just put out a fluffy press release like everyone else. That's fine.
Well, now, if there's a word in the same sort of barrel as candor, that is maybe stupefy is the word I'm looking at. There's, as usual, we've got the roundup of all of the public cloud revenue, Amazon, things like that. It's always, to me, a stupefying amount of money that they make. I don't even know how to quantify that many billion. But I think as you've pointed out in our notes here in your analysis, Brandon, they're also spending a stupefying amount of money on not only hardware but on capital expenditures, three-dimensional things. And I have to think. What is the figure for hardware? It's way up there. You have to figure a lot of that is just like computers that they're buying. And at some point, I feel like they're going to account for all of the computer buying that really makes sense, which is a strange market to exist in. But what do we make of the most recent round of stupefying numbers? What's our analysis on that, Brandon?
Well, a couple of things are on the AWS or Amazon side. So one thing that jumped out at me is Amazon Web Services grew 19%, which is kind of around what it's been doing. So that's not notable. But the number was up to $27.5 billion. But this is the thing that just shocked me. It accounted for 60% of Amazon's operating profit. So 60% of the profit. If you think about all of the things Amazon delivers, and their football and everything they do, 60% of the profits coming from AWS. So that is
it's a data center with the gift shop, man.
I mean, it is just unbelievable. And then you take that, and so the link is in here from Jamin Bell. He puts together a lot of these different numbers, but they basically stack up the amount of money the major cloud providers are spending on CapEx. So it's somewhere between $10 to $20 billion per company per quarter. And I think Amazon came out and they said they were going to spend something on the order of like $80 billion in CapEx this next year. And it's like, it's one of these things, like, I just think, we just say billion and it's just like, yeah, whatever. So it just doesn't mean anything. But when you think about how much, to your point, Cote, it's like hardware, networking, storage, facilities, it's just sort of like, it can just gives you a sense of just like, because if they're spending this, they must obviously have something in their forecast to say it's all going to be utilized pretty soon. So this kind of gives you back to the kind of this idea of like, well, how big is this going to get in the cloud? And it just kind of shows you that there's no end in sight. Dare I say it? Everyone dust off their early innings analogy and be like, because it's staggering when you start to look at the numbers. So it's, I don't know. I think we won't, because we talk about it so much, I become a little bit like numb to it, but I'm like, the scale of these businesses is just enormous is my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I remember back, every now and then I recall the '90s when there was just this when our generation was into maybe like caring, just slightly, like throwing bricks at McDonald's windows and things like that, hanging off a lamppost with masks on, and at some point, this amount of spending is going to reach that category of just like or we could like fix countries, right? Like we could buy some new computers, or maybe we could like feed the starving or something. Like it's just some staggering amount of money for like taking pictures of sandwiches and things like that. But on the other hand, maybe that's part of the value of it. It's raw infrastructure that you have. So on a global scale, I assume that spending is global, just converted to dollars or whatever. Maybe that's the benefit, that you've got the equivalent of great roads everywhere. I mean, that probably actually is the case, but yeah, I guess at some point combined together, there'll be like like $1 trillion of spend on computers. And man,
a while to get there, but yeah,
just think, if you're the person, the salesperson who's in charge of selling monitors, you're probably like, man, I always get screwed on this, right? Like the server people go in there and then they negotiate basically just giving away monitors for free to people, and now I have to eat that. No good.
Well, the other note that jumped out in the Amazon earnings, I think I stole this from Ben Thompson. So it says he estimated that something like the AI side of it, which was I guess I'm estimated to be like 1.82% of AWS businesses. So he had it around as about a $500 million business. So if you take whatever they say is AI, so you have about $500 million of spend going on there, which I don't know. I mean, I think, I have no idea if that's correct, but it does seem to kind of like make sense. So it's not that big relative to everything else, but obviously a lot of the spend is anticipation of this growing, which I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a good question if it happens, but it just kind of shows you the boring side of this is like, what people are still buying a lot of: compute, storage, and network. Like, I think that is
but
like
not monitors.
90% of all of the cloud revenue is those three boring things. And it's a great business. It's just like nobody wants to talk about it. Like, why would you, like, no one wants to go on stage and be like, you know what we did? We blew it out again. The compute number is big as we've ever seen it. And I know that would be super boring to say, but I believe that's probably where like most of the money is. And I actually believe that's where most of the money is going to be for a while. So I'm sure we're going to be inundated as we get into conference season with like so much AI, we won't even be able to like understand it. But I'm like, you know what I think people are buying? Compute. That's what I believe they're doing.
Well, I'm looking forward to big organizations figuring out what they're going to do with all that AI, because I still, I think at the past Google conference they had a great list of like, I want to say 300, but I think maybe it was like 100 uses of AI, but most of it was just like image analysis or like chat apps or something. It wasn't all silly like that, but it'll be great to see what they do. I think about this almost daily nowadays. I don't know why daily, but like I think I mentioned this in the past, is I can see that there's a lot of potential, because like, I don't know about y'all, but like at my work, we can't use any AI stuff except some weird little on-premise, private thing that we have.
Right.
And like, so I can see that like once all the companies and governments in the world are like, you know what, you should go use Gemini or whatever, like then that will be a huge like boon for doing the, I guess we have a preview with the, whatever the Copilot stuff is for programmers. That seems to be used ubiquitously, but just like having it be in office workers' day-to-day life, like maybe all that spend will be justified. And then the second thing is, since we've had a little bit of time to think about it, I've got a strategy for the monitor salesperson. and I think it's that, as always, whenever you're in a strange, weird situation when you're selling computer stuff, the thing that you end up gravitating towards, kind of like two floating, pieces of wood in a frozen ocean, you always end up merging with virtual desktops. So I think the monitor person is going to be like, yeah, you're going to be selling a lot of virtual desktops. You know what you need when you have a virtual desktop? Better have a monitor. Can't be selling virtual desktops without a monitor. And so I think, and then next thing you know, the peripheral salesperson also latching onto that, and you got yourself a kind of a stew going of like still selling the mice and the keyboards, the hubs, the monitors. You got some action in there. Maybe you won't get discounted too
You
much.
got something. I mean, I think, you know, there's also been kind of a headwind narrative for this as well. You know, I've seen a couple of articles recently about repatriation efforts and, you know, how they're starting to pick up steam. But I think the AI stuff is almost a stop to some of that, right? First of all, you can't buy the hardware. You know, I mean, essentially, like NVIDIA sold out for 3 years. And so if you're going to want to use AI, you're probably still going to have to go to cloud just because you can't get the hardware. And so I think, you know, making that sort of layout as a cloud provider right now kind of makes sense because you know that despite this narrative of slowdowns and you know Geico repatriating workloads and stuff, like when Geico wants to go get some AI, they're still gonna have to go to the cloud. And you know, that's just kind of the state of play for probably the next, you know, 2 or 3 years, I would expect. But you got to kind of figure eventually there's going to be some slowdown in the capex, maybe.
You know, maybe there's you also have another strategy there that if you keep buying up all the GPUs and stuff as the public cloud vendors, then you force people to go to you to use it, right?
Yeah.
There must be some name for that kind of for that.
I don't think you can really get a captive market, but as a holder of NVIDIA stock, I endorse this solution.
Well, they did on the monitors front, Cote. You maybe haven't seen it, but you know, at Microsoft Ignite this week, Microsoft announced the Windows 365 Link, which is a tiny little computer, $349 mini PC, that all it does is connect to the, if you will, Windows cloud, the Office, right? And so I thought to myself, man, how many times have we seen this idea attempted and failed, right? And it's like, why would you? And then, of course, I feel like it's already redundant to make the case that, like, why would you spend $349 on this little thing that only connects to the cloud versus, like, if you're really rich, spend $599 on a Mac Mini, or if not, spend $450 on probably a pretty nice Windows desktop. And it's just like, but it's
just fine.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't come with a monitor. So maybe there's hope that everyone's gonna buy these tiny little machines. Again,
that's a ridiculous price point. I mean, like knowing the capability of hardware right now.
I mean, this idea has been tried 5 million times. Right?
No, I mean, Chromebooks are a successful business.
Like, it is just, but again, it's just amazing. Like, they rolled this out, like, and I'm sure they're like, well, the enterprise really needs it, and it's like
no, they don't.
Who in the enterprise, and like who, even someone's gonna be like, well, just the call center. It's like, no, at some point in the call center person is going to have to do something else. I know we don't want to believe that. They're going to need to do something else, and they're going to be like, you know, it'd be great if I just had a regular computer right here and I can save a file to this, right? Because I need to do that because something has happened. It's like, no, we're going to give you this thing. So I just think, you know, as smart as we progress in the cloud, we continue to bring our dumb ideas with us. So good luck, Microsoft 365 Link. I don't think you're going to last long, but you know,
I think in maybe if whatever the enterprise software version of the Netflix credo is, I think instead of like look across the table and ask if they're the smartest person, that the best person you could hire for this job, if not immediately fire them without severance, if I remember the wording correctly. I think the credo we have, the thing we have in the enterprise stuff is, if someone suggests call center as a business strategy, they're out. Just
I totally agree. I do. Man, I almost don't have the two lists. It's like things we're not going to argue about and we're going to do, and things we're not going to do. Number one, we're going to implement CSV. Don't ask any questions. Number two, we're not building these little network PC computers that do nothing. We're not doing that. Do not ask those ideas, right?
We're not going to expect it to be a profit center if we do. Like, if I'm Microsoft, I might offer that, but I don't even think I'd mention it. I think it's just one of those things people stumble across and you're like, huh, they've got Chromebooks too.
Maybe
Well, it looks-
maybe
I mean-
what happened
Mhm.
is there was, you have these executive retreats from multiple companies, and maybe our friend the VP of cables was hanging out with the VP of monitors at Dell or maybe
Sand Hill
Microsoft.
Road, or, yeah.
And they were talking after a few, like, I don't know, what do they drink? Some Napa wine or some scotch, or maybe they don't drink anything because they're like off the alcohol and they're
Mm.
just drinking like
Next gen. And then they
you
went
know,
for then they
cucumber
went
water.
biking. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They went biking or they played some early round of hacky sack or something. And the VP of cables was like, listen, there's going to be a meeting where they're going to be talking about a new kind of computer, a Surface. You need to have someone go to that meeting and say, like, what if you shipped this computer without a monitor? Like, it's not going to be integrated into it for call centers. And just start that idea up, because here's what's going to happen. And the VP of cable is going to be like, how do you think I run my business, right? Like, let's really, all the Apple products are just a really nice accessory for really nice cables, if you think about it. Let's order another round of drinks.
It's
and
a
cucumber
cable
water.
store with a gift shop.
Well, you guys are making me think of, like, maybe in the end it's more like a comm/keynote flow presentations. Like, I don't know. Do you think, did no one from the Microsoft team watch the Apple stuff and be like, you know what we shouldn't do? Let's not hold up something that looks like a Mac Mini, which is widely acclaimed now as like the fastest computer, you can get, it's cheapest. Let's not hold up something that's like, essentially just like that and does almost nothing. Right. That
Yeah,
seems like we could just put that in the press release, and the large companies that actually want this, we'll just contact them directly.
Exactly.
We don't need to
That's
spend,
what I'm saying. Like,
we don't need to spend time making ourselves look like fools and just, inviting the comparison, right? You're like, oh, Mac Mini, I can solve world hunger. Oh, Microsoft little tiny PC can't do anything unless it's plugged into the internet. And then I can only use Microsoft Word, which won't let me export to PDF, right? Or something, ludicrous like that.
Yeah, that is a good, the Microsoft Mini. People always want to go for that. I don't know. I finally got rid of the that Sunray that I had a while ago.
oh,
Would have been nice to use that, but I'm pretty sure it was like 480 by 240 or whatever the resolution was. Actually, it's a pretty nice machine. Who knows? Well, it's always nice to check into the open source world. I think KubeCon was last week. I don't know if we have much to say about that, and unless something happens over on the other podcast channel, Software Defined Interviews. My co-host Whitney and I are scheduled to record kind of, I wouldn't call it a recap, because longtime listeners will know I probably won't do any reading. I'll just ask her what she thought about it. It'll be a revibe. I don't know what we'll come up with the phrase. What was it like? So maybe we'll cover that over in the Software Defined Interviews channel. There you go. But I think it looks like I was excited about this, that Red Hat is contributing Podman along with other things, because I've heard about, it's my level is not anything on the command line. So what is the Podman? Can you tell me that? I'm guessing Matt Ray. What is this thing?
Put me on the spot. Essentially, when Docker before they divested of their container business, they got rid of their enterprise aspirations, and they kind of kept cramming everything into Docker Desktop, and it just kind of became a convoluted mess of like, so I've got one command that does everything, and Red Hat was like, hey, why don't we just break this apart into the barest minimum of tools needed for this container toolchain? And essentially, like, you got Podman and what else is in there? Scopio and ComposeFS, and just all the things that they did the bare minimum, but did exactly what you needed. And they built that tool chain, battle tested it, and now they're kind of like, look, why don't we just set this as the standard that we actually all wanted in the first place, which is just something utilitarian that it doesn't have competitive pressure on it, to sell the best Podman you can sell by holding features back. So I it's practically like giving part of the the standard Linux user land to the CNCF at this point.
So I like that, and thanks to Red Hat doing it. But let's just get to the most important thing that people need to know. It's like I've just been using Docker Desktop. My only question for you, Matt, right? You can just give me the yes or no, and I don't even need you to explain it. Should I be using Podman Desktop or should I be using Docker Desktop?
The only reason I would switch is if you were forced to, because you have to get like a license for your work, right? I mean, if you're like, I'm too cheap to buy developer tools, which is like all developers, you're probably going to end up not using Docker Desktop when they hit you up with like, oh, you work for a company and we have to have licensing, and your company decides like, what are the free alternatives? And then you look around and you show them Podman and they're like, huh, that does everything we need. And you're like, yeah, but it's not supported. And they're like, that's fine.
All right. All right. I heard then I'm just going to continue to ride the free coattails.
Yeah, you ride the free
personal
train,
Docker Desktop and that's running, all of like, I don't know, maybe I've got 3 images in there that I run one every once in a while, but it seems to work. I like it.
Yeah.
I like
that's the answer, right? It's like the Linux distros. I don't think any of them ship Docker. I think they all ship like these tools.
Oh, okay, that would make sense because
so it's like all the everybody who's shipping free stuff, like they don't want to deal with potential commercial I mean the whole point is like Docker intentionally made this a convoluted batteries included mess, and people are like, you know what, I don't like all your batteries, and if I use too many, if I draw too much power, I have to start paying.
I'm imagining that if you were to draw a picture of Podman, it's like one of those like late 80s like cartoon characters with like the big gigantic blonde hair coming out and sunglasses, smiling really big. Kind of like who is that football player in the 80s with like the iridescent glasses?
Brian Bosworth.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Well, the thing they made the big, as I just read up on it. So obviously Podman, the big pitch was, I guess it's daemonless, right? But that's only going to be for running on the server, right? Like if you're running Podman Desktop, I assume I'm running a process. Am I wrong?
I'm still using Docker Desktop, right?
Yeah, so we don't even know. So I guess I don't know.
We don't even know. But I've come across it enough that I know, like, if and when it matters, I knew that's what I would be using.
All right.
But it never mattered, and every time I've come across it, it just works fine. Everything in that Red Hat toolchain just works fine. They've tried to mimic the same behavior as Docker, CLI. So it's usually just like not that different.
Gotcha,
so
gotcha.
It's like, today you're using Chrome, but tomorrow you're using Firefox. It's
Well, no worries to the Docker Desktop. Like I'm not using a Windows 365 Link PC, so it's fine. If they would like to spin up a daemon and have a little CPU power, it's okay with me. I'm not I'm not getting angry about it.
No.
Yeah, I'm as we're talking about this, I was envisioning another scene from this now famous meeting between the VP of cables and the VP of monitors. And as they're wrapping up the night, they've pulled together their strategy maybe on the back of a napkin or two. And one of them is like, well, it could be worse. We could be in a business where we just give everything away. and I think maybe that's a consolidation.
That'd be a good end. That'd be a good end to a lot of software stories. I like it. Well done.
Well, also, just as 2 items to call out, I've heard about people working on this over the summer, mentioning things here and there. I'm still not quite sure what it is, but the Heroku people have been doing some moving and shaking with the old 12 factors. They've open sourced it. Now, I didn't do a thorough look into this, but I think that means they have a GitHub repo with the text of it, and they're collaborating with people to update it. It looked like it was on the MIT license. I think that means you're free to use it however you want. I'm not sure. It seems like you would cover that with the Creative Commons. What's the state of the Creative Commons?
Is what's used for docs and text. It's alive and well. I mean, you come across it a lot. All the CNCF docs are Creative Commons.
So maybe we could do. I haven't verified any of this, so I might have just been imagining it when I was taking a nap earlier. But like maybe we could infer that if you have let's say a document, which the 12-factor thing is a document, as I recall, and you give it a software license at the beginning of wanting to do something. Well, one, maybe just someone chose that a long time ago and now you have it. But maybe that's a predictor that you're going to have some actual code around it, some sort of test suite or verification thing. feel out if you're 12-factor compliant or something. But we'll see. We'll have to see what's going on there. Also, as was reported last week, and I think this has been mentioned several times before, Heroku rebuilding everything on top of Kubernetes. So hopefully that'll work out. And then finally, we can end the joking of like, Heroku is always the best. And then you have some other conversation and then you can just say, yes, so why don't we use it? Right. We could just go to the original thing that everyone likes and complain about how expensive it is. That can be our new, instead of complaining about how complicated YAML is, we can just complain about how expensive Heroku is. And that will be what we talk about for the next 5 years. It'll be fantastic. And then finally, I think all of us were bemusedly befuddled by the suggestion from the American Department of Justice antitrust thing that I think this is a rumor that was maybe floated, not official, if I remember, that Google might have to split off Chrome from their business, which maybe goes in the Hall of Fame of silly regulatory moves. That seems just like that would be a death sentence for Chrome. I'm not really sure what they would do as a standalone business, other than just keep getting paid by Google, which would be
Hey,
weird.
Firefox is still a standalone business, right?
That's true. Yeah,
but also paid by Google mostly, right?
Right.
Which is also
Well,
kind of
that's what I'm
interesting.
saying. Like, but I think the difference there is Google has unfettered access to everything coming out of Chrome. So
Mhm.
everything you click on, they're tracking
They can see it for
everything,
sure.
right? And Firefox doesn't do that much. They just they're getting paid to default your search engine. They're not getting paid to give your clickstream to Google. And I think that's the differentiator is it's one thing for you to know like what I'm searching for, or to direct me somewhere so you can try to capture my eyeballs. It's another thing that like while you're using Chrome at work, for intranet stuff, Google's recording your clickstream, right?
Yeah,
like really invasive.
What I am no antitrust person, but every time I see antitrust stuff, not every time, often when I see antitrust stuff against the kind of consumer tech companies, I always think like, I don't understand why you're not going after their real business and advertising, right? Like, if anything, like all this stuff on their periphery, sure, you got issues there, but really, like, I'm pretty sure it's about advertising. Like whatever they're doing there to make all that money, there must be something going on, and that would actually be like, I mean, once you were dealing with Facebook and Google, and you started messing with their ad business, I'm sure they'd be like, "Whoa, hold on, like things are getting crazy." Like, but I don't know. No one seems to penetrate.
But I do think we're in like a weird cycle. Is like listen to like a lot of commentary about this. It's like, okay, most of the time people are like, "Oh, we have big monopolies. That's maybe not good." Then something happens in a court case and there's a lot of legal talk that's maybe interesting, maybe not. Then someone proposes an actual a proposal to change something, right? Then everybody unanimously is like, that remedy is crap. That is the dumbest idea I would have ever done. There's never anyone who's like, there's never someone who's like, you know what? The obvious remedy is this, because any remedy that is proposed is attacked by like millions of people about being bad. So I'm always just kind of back to like, well, you can either just like let the market figure it out, which I think is what kind of always happens, right? It's like in the end, it's like, it's not
But
like
it's not though. I mean, I
listen, but you cannot only have one or the other. It's like you either have to be like, well, we're gonna try some remedies, okay?
Yeah.
No one can agree, but like, because I kind of like, there's so much passion around this. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of, I feel like we're interesting, at least in the United States. I feel like we're in the mood of like YOLO government. It's like, I don't know. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Open source it, let someone else buy Chrome. Maybe Facebook buys Chrome. Maybe I don't know. It would just sort of be like, what would happen, right? And then it's like, if it sucks, someone will build another browser, because we've been through this a million times. Like, IE to Firefox to Chrome to like Arc, and it's like it'll get solved some way. And then at the end, we may be like, you know what? We wasted a lot of time, and we should have just kept it the way it was. But we kind of all agreed at the beginning we wanted to try some remedies, and we couldn't agree on one, so we tried this one. This one didn't work, and then to your point, Cote, well, maybe next time there'll be one like, oh, we got to do this ad thing, and that one will get a shot, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
But-
feel like you kind of have to let people try something if you want remedies, or just be satisfied with the status quo. That's kind of how
yeah. I mean, I think I don't know all the details, as I keep saying, but like, I think whatever the EU did last year, where they were trying to force Apple to allow third-party app stores, like that makes sense, right? Like if you are concerned about like monopolistic powers of a company, that is like a major point for it. Now, what I don't really understand is how Apple got away with like the total like, shit on Europe's face answer to it, which is just like I feel like the European Commission should have looked at it and been like, no, let's try this again.
That's
But
right.
there doesn't seem to have been any response to it. Maybe it just takes a while.
It takes a while. Like Cote, you're in Europe. You know that the bureaucracy.
It's true.
They're gonna
I
they're
mean-
gonna take their time, but when they do, they're gonna be like, "This is the
It's
way
true.
it is."
This
You know,
was
eat
all
it.
happening. This was all happening in the J months, in June and July, which everyone knows
Not a
shit's
good
not
time.
going to happen after that, right? Like,
I
so
do think we
maybe
should give Europe. We should give like a win and a loss. Okay, cookie pop-ups, complete loss. Right? You know what? We
absolutely
tried that one. I think we could say that
the
remedy.
cookie thing is, but I think establishing rules about holding data.
Don't disagree with you all. Let's keep. You
Yeah.
can keep those rules. Let's just get rid of this cookie pop-up thing. That's just a minute. Okay. Let's just be like, you had a good idea here. You had the root of a good idea.
Yeah.
But like something went wrong. Let's get rid of that.
Well,
But I think maybe-
agree to iterate over it, but
I would-
don't throw it out. Is my
But maybe the one we should give credit to the European Commission, like USB-C, like the fact that like I don't know if it's directly responsible, but it seemed like Apple,
totally out.
they got the heads up, like we're not gonna have all these cables everywhere. So, and I think that's generally been good. I don't think all the talk about like, oh, they need a proprietary. So actually, it's quite nice in my house as we retire a Lightning device.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, we're one step closer to getting rid of a whole cable type in this house. So
you think the VP of cables like retired to spend more time with his family?
yeah, I
after
feel
that?
like that person had a great run. They probably retired rich, and they can, called in like, I've made enough money, and
He's like, let's get back into monitors.
I saw the EU writing on the wall. I'm going to move on to something else, and in the end, it's like it's okay. Everyone was worried. Oh no, Apple needs their proprietary content. It's like it's fine. The iPhones work. Everyone's happy. So I think we give Europe a small win on that one.
I think you're right, Matt Ray. The reason the VP of cable and the VP of monitors were getting together is the cable cycle, all done. You're still going to make lots of money selling the new cables, converting them over, all good stuff. Think of all the money that you get when you have to have a multi-ended USB cable now. Just a whole nother thing that you're going to have there. But I bet the VP of monitors was like, how can I do that in monitors? I need some kind of regulatory thing that will require the entire global market to buy new monitors. And maybe they were scheming out how.
Well,
to do that.
I'm gonna break some news right here. It ain't gonna be Microsoft's link.
Well, speaking of the opposite of efficient markets and things being figured out quickly, do we have any bureaucracy this episode?
Yeah, a couple of follow-up items. We talked a little about Overclass last week. Some people recommended Podcast Addict has very similar smart speed capabilities for those that are on Android. So Steve and others mentioned that from Slack. So if you're on Android and you're not using some kind of smart speed to listen to us, then you should probably check out Podcast Addict. Also, Dan wrote in, we're talking about cloud exchanges, this idea that maybe one day you could like trade cloud computing online and buy futures in it. He said, Dan, let us know that Deutsche Bank already tried a cloud exchange. They did this in 2013, but then they shut it down. So I don't know, were they before their time? Will it come back? I have no idea, but I thought that was interesting.
Someone peddling on the internet.
Matt, not you, Matt, but the Matt from Slack, they recommend Affinity, which is like Pixelmator. So I guess if Pixelmator, gets rolled into Apple and is like, no longer released, we can all use Affinity. Haven't tried it, so I don't know. And then finally, I thought this was really kind of interesting. Borco has built the Libra link up status bar for VC Code. And what it does is it reads your glucose level off, I guess, Libra link. That's Libra is a library. I don't know how to say it. Is a device that if you're like a type 1 diabetic or any diabetic, and I guess that wants to monitor it, you basically pulls the data off and shows it to you right in VS Code. So I don't know. I know some people that are struggle or not struggling, but diabetics, and they're always worried about their glucose. So I thought this was interesting. It's like, hey, there you go. If you're code all day and you want to keep a look at your blood sugar, you can download his free project there. So I thought that was very unique. So good job, Borko.
That does sound nice. Something useful amongst all of this. Well, speaking of things that are useful, there's a few conferences coming up next year, so you can just kind of coast through that. I'm sure there's other events. There's Configuration Management Camp, February 2nd and 5th, which will be in Ghent, as it always is. That's Belgium. Lovely place there. It's a little hard to get to, but it's also the days after FOSDEM, the big open source conference. So if you're over there for that, you should go to that one. Anyhow, it's a fun trip. You want to go to Brussels or maybe even Amsterdam and rent a car and drive there. You could also take the train if you want to be cool. That's fun. But I found as an American, now of course it's fine, but the train system can be kind of inscrutable if you're not used to it. But nowadays I think it's actually pretty simple. You can do it all online. The other conference, speaking of places that are American and not really train oriented, is DevOps Days LA is coming up on March 6th to 9th, where there'll also be Scale 22X. And we have a discount code you can use if you want to register for it, which is DevOp, which is funny because that's a funny, ironic term people will use, DevOp. So you should check out that conference. It's always fun. Lots of great stickers there as well. Lots of open source stuff if you're into that. So I don't think our 2 VPs are going to be there. Although maybe they would. They could be like, everyone, you can't open source a monitor. So it's bulletproof business. Well, speaking of things you can't open source and that are bulletproof, what do you have to recommend this episode, Brandon?
Well, no surprise here. I'm going to recommend Silo Season 2 on Apple TV Plus. So if you've read the books or you already saw Season 1, you probably are already watching it. I think it's a great story. I really enjoyed the books. I like the first season. And if you haven't seen it, go watch the first season and then catch up and watch Season 2.
Solid recommendation.
Good recommendation.
Matt Ray, your recommendation?
Well, I'm in a trial of Apple TV. Always sign up for those when you get a chance and turn them off when you're done. But I'll be adding Season 2 of Silo to my watch list. I don't really have a recommendation as much as a follow-up. I think previously I recommended Spotify Premium for audiobooks. It turns out there's like a 10-hour a month limit, or maybe it was 20. I hit it. So that's a big asterisk next to my previous recommendation is like, if this is you, check your library. They've got good free audiobooks.
Libby is always a good recommendation. Go get Libby.
Diversify your sources of free content.
Now, is there an option to pay more to get more?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They will always happily take your money, but then you're into like Audible territory where you might as well just be flipping the free Audible subscriptions.
That's good. Well, I mean, because my fear was that there was a product manager there who was like, who would need more than 10 hours a month?
Exactly. No. They're like, would you like to buy more? I'm like, I can wait, 7 more days to finish the book.
Yeah, we'll know that consumer product hustling AI has reached its apex when it knows not to ask Matt Ray if he wants to spend more. Like, it just won't even happen.
Somewhere it's flagged. This guy's.
What do you think though? I want to know this. Like, you think in that product management meeting, they were like, "Hey, we could go 1 book a month, or we could go 10 hours." How long do you think the meeting went around that issue? People were like, there was like people like, no. It has to be 10 hours because we want them to use more books. Or someone's like, no, we never want to leave someone dissatisfied that they, their book is 10 hours.
I wonder if that's in the Spotify credo.
You can see how it went down, right? It's sort of like, I would have, for the record, I would have argued a book a month, right? Regardless of time. Because the idea is like the negativity is going to so outweigh the,
because most of the books, most books are going to be like 15 hours.
That's true.
Or that feels like probably an average for audiobooks. And so like, you might occasionally only have 8 hours, but.
And then even better is like in the Spotify meeting, did they work it out? Is it 10 hours in book time or if I double speed it? is it only like, you know, so
Wow.
blown,
there's a
Brandon.
whole nother meeting that went on about that. Well, what if they do double?
I think
Yeah.
I think the person who brought that up was just like, dude, no, we're not gonna split those hairs. Nobody wants to do the accounting of time-based hours with a multiple in a spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
database, right?
Right, but that's what I would
Nobody wants that.
That's what we would have made the case. Like, listen, we're looking at it 10 hours is the way
No,
we
no.
Spotify think. We should just be thinking about a book a
You're
month.
splitting nickels. I mean,
Book a month,
no.
baby. Book a month as fast as you can listen to it. If you want more, buy more.
I'm
would
going
be
back
my
to Libby.
case.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like 10 hours is barely enough to listen to like a Seth Godin book, and those are plenty short. Well, my recommendation is this website project. I forget if I mentioned this, but I think it's by the same person who set up. They probably had Raspberry Pis. I don't know, but they set up little devices on street corners that were using Shazam to identify music that it would hear, and they list out the
Nice.
music that you hear on street. So they had a new project inspired by someone else, but it's called IMG_0001. And this person came across, I'd forgotten about this, but there was a time, I think he said it was 2009 to 2013 or something, where on the iPhone, there was actually an option to just share directly to YouTube, which I remember those times. It was fun. There was also just like Facebook was a native primitive for doing things in there. It was a
People were
weird,
nice on the internet. It was
it's great stuff.
before everything went downhill.
So what this person did is they figured out how to search through YouTube to find the videos, you know, because if you didn't do anything, it would upload as image under IMG_ whatever. And so he found like 5 million of these videos, and now you can go to the website and you can just click on it and it randomly goes through them. And so it's what you would expect. It's just like totally random videos from people's lives. And you know, so it has you know, you start off, I don't know if this is autobiographical, but of course you start off hoping that you're going to land on something crazy, right? Either like, you know, titillating or shocking or weird. But really, you end up just watching a bunch of people's like kids walking around and like really bad like music practices and people doing things. But it becomes pretty charming and interesting to just like go through there and see what people were filming on their videos. Now, it's also based on, there's another project he links to, and this is, I think people have done this in Flickr and other places for a while, which is fun. It's also fun just to search for images called IMG_0001. which in theory is the first picture someone takes with a new device. And then you can kind of look through with that. But, you know, these are fun little hacks verging on interesting art installations to go look at. Well, if you want to see that and, you know, also link to things that click on links to things that we've talked about, many things we haven't talked about, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/494 and find out about random videos of people. I saw, it looked like it was a retiree party. There was a bunch of old fellows in suits singing around a guy sitting at a table who was also old. And I was thinking like, ooh, been to a lot of those events when I was a kid. And anyways, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/494 to see all sorts of stuff like that. I guess if I'm doing my math correctly, by the end of the year, we'll be up to episode 500, which will be fun. That's a little nuts. Just think of how high the number would be if early on we would have actually showed up every week and done it. Would have been amazing.
I'm feeling seen.
It took a few years to get the discipline to do things. So that's great. But now it's been a while. Well, speaking of discipline, you know, we could wrap up just a little bit over 60 minutes here if I said you know, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well done as always. Good to see everybody in the chat. Michael, Kevin, nice to see you. I think you're relatively new. So some good questions in here. But the question I have on my mind is, Matt, you posted a picture of your dog barking at some birds.
Cockatoos. Yeah.
On top of what looks like your basketball hoop.
Yep.
and explain. I don't know, just like what's going on here. Why, like, what's happening?
So this morning, I woke up to my dog barking in our bathroom, which has a skylight, and there were cockatoos standing on the skylight, pecking at it.
Oh,
So
okay.
you look up, and there's like, three, and these are large, like parrot-sized birds, right? And they're like, the dog's just going nuts in the bathroom. And then, went in there and like, wow, it's pretty crazy. Then they kind of hopped over to the next door neighbor's roof to, peek inside their skylights. And then they went down into our backyard, and, the dog was just having none of it. He's like, "You birds, get out of here. This is my yard."
Okay. Well, I like it.
It's an awesome photo.
I will say this though, Matt. I assume this is like the front of. Is this the front of your house?
It's the back.
Back of your house. Okay.
Yeah,
I
we
was
have it,
like, your house, like when I think of Australia, it's just everything is growing out. Like there's a giant
yeah.
bush. There's looks like there's stuff on top of the roof. Like looks like you're just being taken over. It feels like, I always feel like Australia is sort of like under attack. It looks like your backyard's under attack by vegetation.
Yeah, when you look at the photo, you could tell that I don't have one of those pole. I don't have one of those like pole clippers. I can only trim the bushes up as high as I could reach. Which
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That's why it ends. It kind of just ends. I see now.
and it's like, hey, I'm a renter, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's good. All right. Well, we'll make this.
That's our. We have a detached garage, so we have a little courtyard in our backyard.
Oh,
and-
okay. I see. All right. Well, we'll make that. Well, at least we'll put this on the Instagram account for Software Defined Talk.
Yeah,
So everyone
note the
can-
cockatoo in the bush there too. Yeah, not
Oh,
There's
just-
one in
more
the bush. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love those hairstyles they
Wow,
have.
there's like a where's Waldo kind of vibe to this whole thing. The more I look at it, the more I find stuff. So it's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think you that would be a great like underground hip hop MC or DJ, like DJ Detach. I think I could get into that.
Well, everyone knows what Matt needs for Christmas is a ladder, so he can do the rest of his
I've got a
giant
footstool.
push.
No, like I said, I'm a renter. It's not my problem.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, speaking of not your problem, thanks for everyone who was watching along with us today. Someone said they would get on, but we don't talk at 2x speed. And I respected that. I was like, you're right. We don't. So if you were nice enough to watch live, we appreciate it. If not, you can now go back and watch this recording at 2x speed. It will probably be twice